we've gone out of our way to invite a lot of wonderfully gifted and talented people to be here with us, and I appreciate the fact that you all have responded so positively. I went to Toyota to ask them to support us in this conference for two reasons. I mean, they employ a lot of people in this country, and they are not indigenously in this country. You know, why are you here? What made you come here? And what is it about your culture, your knowledge, your systems? What is it about your way in Toyota that we can learn from here in this piece of work? They stepped up immediately, and we've been very, very fortunate that they gave us one of their best and brightest, Jamie Bonini, who's going to talk to you in just a little bit. Jamie's very talented, very bona fide. You read his resume, and I'm sure you have read his resume. It looks like he had a little trouble trying to figure out what he wanted to do in life. He got so many freaking degrees. And it just seemed to, it was like, I may need to have a Princeton friend. I may need to have a Berkeley friend. I may need to have an MIT friend. So he just kept moving along, getting degrees in one place. Isn't that true? I mean, there is a little truth to this. So he is, in Toyota, he is the outside person. So he takes the Toyota production system, he takes the Toyota culture, and he tries to help other people figure out how can they apply it. What good did it do for Toyota? Can it do the same good for you? It made Toyota productive. It makes Toyota efficient, effective. It makes Toyota a desired partner and friend in this country for sure. And I should have said up front, and of course I reminded Toyota that I own 7 Toyotas, and therefore they owed me. Jamie? Okay. All right. Thank you, Nick. Come up here. Thank you. All yours.
The education comes as a consequence of being the son of a professor.
Oh, that's how
it was
you
always gearing me more towards education and less towards the industrial world that I work in today. Let me just put some of my props up here because I'm going to want to make sure I remember to refer to these books. All right, here's what I had in mind today that I thought would add value to the terrific agenda. A little bit of background. I work in a group called the Toyota Production System Support Center, and as Nick mentioned, we work with small to mid-sized companies, small meaning less than about 5,000 people, that are not in the automobile industry, all kinds of small companies and nonprofits, to help them implement the Toyota production system to improve their operations to strengthen employment. And we've been doing that all over North America for 20 years. So what I want to do is share some insights about that. And to do that, first I'm going to summarize what is the Toyota production system. And briefly, we call the Toyota production system an organizational culture that is an integrated system of 3 key elements. It starts with a basic philosophy of how you're going to run your operation, combines that with some technical tools that are well known in the industrial sector. I'll recap them a little bit. And then there's a managerial role, and the managerial role is to develop people to surface and solve problems. It's fundamentally a problem-solving system. And it's a problem-solving system that whether you're in a good or service, which is a good chunk of what we're doing here in the United States, to get results in 3 key areas. 1, the quality of the good or service. 2, the cost or productivity with the good or service. And 3, what's becoming increasingly important is the lead time. And the lead time is the wait time between when a customer makes an order and when their good or service arrives. So that's the purpose of the system, get results in those 3 areas. Then finally, I'm going to share 3 points at the end about that I think will be our contribution or perspective, Nick, to the topic today. What have we learned over 20 years trying to help organizations become more effective in this? And I'd say there are 3, and Dave and I were talking about this over breakfast. Number 1 is in the United States, there is a lot of blindness about the improvement potential in their operations. We come to companies all the time that say, we absolutely need to reduce our costs by 10%, or we can't stay here, or we're going to have to close down. That's really not possible. We've been working on it. and we're able to work on it and find out we can reduce 40%, 50%. So there's a blindness, a lack of awareness of the improvement potential from performing a very high level production system. So that's number one. The second contribution I'd like to make is we finding that in the last 20 years there's been a lot of work in the industrial sector and the service sector to improve quality of services through quality systems and the like. And there's been quite a bit of work on productivity in various different ways. But there hasn't been a lot of work on lead time. And we're finding the companies we work with, they're selling more and more products. And if they can reduce the lead time, customer order to delivery, they can grow revenue, satisfy their customers better, and they can grow margins because they can compete with lead time. And they have an advantage. There are certain products that physically you can't get from outside the United States cost effectively. So if you can compete with speed, that can be a competitive driver. So that's what I'm going to conclude with. But first I want to tell you a little bit about Toyota and TPS, and I'll share some examples of this, and then I'll lead to those conclusions. So I come from this group called TSSC. A little bit about Toyota. Nick mentioned it. We have two, I'm out of the manufacturing headquarters. We have two campuses, one on the top right where I come from in Erlanger, Kentucky, which is by Cincinnati, and we have an R&D center in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Those are some of the vehicles we make. Nick, I'm glad to see that you have 7 of them. I hope you're very satisfied. These are ones that we make here in North America.
I do whatever my wife tells me to do.
Okay. Me too. So those are the vehicles that we produce here in North America. Our group that I come from, the Toyota Production Systems Support Center, what's our mission? It's to contribute to society by sharing Toyota's manufacturing know-how with public institutions and improve the general level of the manufacturing industry in North America. And that's what we've been doing for 20 years. A little bit of history about how we came about this, I think, is important. In 1987, Toyota opened a large factory near Lexington, Kentucky, where we started making the Camry. And when we started producing the Camry in the US, and there was a lot of general interest, there were books published, and Toyota got deluged with visitors that wanted to see, what are you doing here at Toyota in North America? How does this system work? And we got tours, and a lot of folks came visiting us. Then in 1990, MIT published a study called The Machine That Changed the World, a very famous study where 18 automakers shared information. It was an independent academic study trying to look at what's the difference in the gap in productivity amongst the automobile makers around the world. I happened to be at Chrysler at that point in time when that study was published. And they coined the term lean production, which was their term for the Toyota production system. When that happened, we got really deluged with interested folks wanting to learn what is this thing called the Toyota production system that externally has been very powerful in automotive. So in 1992, the group that I'm from, TSSC, was established so we could go work with organizations outside Toyota and help them implement TPS by doing it. So we've been doing it for over 20 years, and then a couple years ago we became a nonprofit that's a subsidiary of Toyota, but we're entirely nonprofit. So that's a little bit of background. Over that time frame, we've worked on a cumulative 216 projects. That means on-site, inside organizations from 3 months to 5 years. And a variety of sectors, some automotive suppliers, education, food, furniture, healthcare, nonprofits, all kinds of manufacturing. It's a diversity of what we've been exposed to. Just this last year, these are projects that I'm very familiar with. On the left, we've supported 21 organizations that we call general industries. These are typically manufacturing or service-oriented or for-profit organizations in manufacturing, in mining, and recycling of like medical instruments. So we're working on 21. On the right-hand side, we have worked with a whole variety of nonprofit organizations. Disaster recovery, which would be like the Red Cross. Hunger relief, we're working with a whole variety of food banks around the country. Healthcare, with healthcare, we're working with large hospitals, small hospitals, volunteer-based medical clinics. In education, we're working at universities, and we've worked at high schools actively, and with government. In the government, we worked at the national level, at the state level, and at the municipality level. So that's the diversity of where we've applied these principles in a whole variety of different settings. Okay, what is the Toyota production system? We call it, as I mentioned, an organizational culture that is an integrated system of 3 elements. It starts with a philosophy. That philosophy underlies all these tools and techniques. It's often not well understood. The philosophy is very simple. Number 1, customer first. Everything we do has got to be to serve our ultimate customer as a top priority. Get them what they want, when they want, and the amount they want. Number 2, and it relates to workforce development, team member is the most important asset. That means the people that we hire to work in our organization are our most valuable asset. We expect them to come to work every day to do their work and to improve their work. Which leads to the third part of the philosophy, which is continuous improvement. Everybody comes to work to do their work and improve their work. And the last piece of the philosophy is a shop floor focus. That means we make improvements by going where the value is created, not in the conference room or looking in front of a computer. So that's the philosophy. That underlies the technical tools that I will elaborate on in a minute. And the leadership or managerial role is to develop people to surface and solve problems to improve performance. So the leadership role is really a teaching developmental role. Okay, these are the technical tools. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I just want to hit a few highlights. At the roof of this house are the results we're after. Very high quality, very low cost, very short lead time. This is a powerful system for delivering results in those 3 areas. To make that happen, there are 2 main principles that underlie the Toyota production system. One is just in time. You're probably very familiar with that. A lot of that was written about in the 70s and 80s. That's about running an operation that has very continuous flow with very little waiting or stagnation. And the second basic principle, Japanese term called jidoka, an American translation for that would be a built-in quality. And what that means is as we're running an operation, if there is a problem, we want there to be a loud signal immediately, and we want a problem solver to arrive immediately to diagnose, contain the problem, what happened, and what can we do to prevent it from happening again. An everyday example of jidoka we can all relate to is in our automobile. Today, if you get in to drive your vehicle, a passenger gets in, they don't put on their seatbelt, what happens?
Yeah, the buzzer goes off.
Buzzer goes off. So you can immediately attack that problem as it occurred. Why didn't somebody put their seatbelt on and get it on? So that's this idea of jidoka. So the whole idea is the way I get high quality, low cost, and short lead time is I have continuous flow, and as the flow is happening, any little glitch or problem or abnormality is immediately signaled. And when that signal happens, very capable problem solvers arrive at great speed and diligence to contain the problem and prevent reoccurrence. It's a problem-solving system. There's some other technical tools in there I won't elaborate on for this brief presentation, but that's the basic concept of the technical tools. Okay, let me give you an example of one of our first companies we work with, which is the Herman Miller Company in Western Michigan. How many of you are familiar with Herman Miller? Okay, Herman Miller is a company in Western Michigan. They were founded in 1923. They have 13 global locations. They're about $1.5 billion in sales. They have about 5,000 employees. They're very well known for the design of their product, which are furniture, chairs, very high-end is their core value from the very beginning. They make furniture for office, healthcare, education. They're in Western Michigan. They came to TSSC in 1995 when they were making these filing cabinets over here, and a customer came to them and said, look, if you can't reduce your price by 30% and dramatically reduce your lead time, we're going someplace else. And that someplace else happened to be most likely outside of the United States. And this was 40% of their business at that time. So we worked with Herman Miller on these pedestal cabinets for a couple years to improve that. And those filing cabinets have come from, had become a very core part of their offering and very profitable. We were able to cut the labor content that goes into that filing cabinet by about 70% and redeploy all that labor. We're able to reduce the manufacturing lead time from what was about 7 days to less than 4 hours. Today, if you order one of those filing cabinets, if you order it for your, and I hope you will, if you order some for furnishing an apartment, between the time you place the order and when it arrives and installed will be 10 days. They're competing on lead time with a very, very wide variety of, they make it to order, a very wide variety of product. So what's happened at Herman Miller, they learned that we started in this one area, and now they've spread it across their company. If you go on their website, they call their system the Herman Miller production system. It's part of their, whoops, let me turn this, speaking of alarms.
It's Herman Miller.
Yeah.
They heard you talking about him.
yeah, that's right. That has now become, design is their competitive core competency as well as manufacturing in their lead time. They've spread it throughout the company, and since 1995, when we first started, their quality has gone, by their internal measures, from about 16,000 ppm to less than 1,500, and their on-time delivery, which is a very big deal in the furniture manufacturer, is basically 100%, which has become a competitive advantage for them. They have spread this to their suppliers in Western Michigan. I've had the chance to see that. It's a wonderful story of strengthening manufacturing and value creation.
Jamie, just a point of order. Would you prefer we ask questions at the end, let you get through the material?
At the end.
Okay.
And then you can judge the time. Is that okay?
Perfect.
And we can come back to any one of
Yeah.
these. So that's a typical example of an organization. Here's some other ones, and then I'll lead into my conclusions, Nick, and I'll be done. On the social contribution side, the nonprofits, I'm not going to go into too much detail because of our purpose today, but we're working with a variety of food banks. We've worked on disaster, rebuilding home construction in New Orleans. We worked very heavily with Cincinnati Children's Hospital in a whole variety of areas. They have a very large lean operation we've partnered with, and we're working with the Red Cross to help use local volunteers to respond with shorter lead time to disasters. On the manufacturing side, here are a couple that I find are interesting for today's audience. The top one there on the right is Dublin. Dublin is a company in Western Michigan. They make components for the machine tool industry, and they export it all over the world. They have product technology. They do machining and assembly, high-end machining. We've been working with them for 7 years. They have competed. They have turned on-time delivery and lead time was a drawback. They had a great product, but their customers sometimes complain we can't get it in time. So now it's a competitive advantage. They're almost 100% on-time delivery. When I go up there, I told Dave over breakfast this morning, their VP of sales will give me a big hug every time I come up there because he says, wow, man, you made my life so easy because now we can compete with lead time. A great example. Another company is S&C Electric. They make electrical gear for the utility industry, transformers and things like that. Again, a huge focus there was lead time to respond faster to the utilities. KSS is a company in Florida. They make airbag deployment modules for vehicles. That one has worked on lead time, quality, and cost. And we're also working with the large utility, DTE in Detroit, to apply this process to service, which is the maintenance that they do on their utility operation. And we've gotten some very good improvements in lead time and quality and productivity there. Okay, so what have we learned from all this? And I gave you a recap up front. What's kind of our contribution or thoughts about this idea of value creation in the United States? The first one is when we go out to work with companies, we find very often there is some blindness to the improvement potential and opportunities. When we meet with the CEOs and the presidents and the very top people, they don't have a really high level of TPS understanding to see the improvement potential. Some of the stories that I said, the results we've been able to get, those people beforehand couldn't see that as a possibility, and they're really surprised that it could actually happen. So there's a blindness challenge out there.
Why do you think that's the case?
Let me get to that when I get to the other two, and I have some thoughts about that. Number two, lead time or speed can have a major impact on revenue growth and margins. A variety of the companies we're working with now, lead time and on-time delivery, customer responsiveness is a big deal, and we found that not only satisfies customers, but they can grow revenue and they can grow margin. They can price for it. Which is a great opportunity. And then lastly, to get sustained results, TPS must be a corporate strategy with strong leadership. And with that, I say that, and it relates to the blindness point, is this needs to be a strategy that is at the top of the company, driven by the CEO and the board. Not an operations strategy. This has got to be a corporate strategy because it ultimately affects all the divisions. In the examples I mentioned, you can see how sales, engineering, design, and production, all of those have to work in harmony to make this happen. This topic about it being a corporate strategy, Art Byrne wrote a book last year. He's been a CEO of a variety of companies that I had a chance to talk about that talks about this issue of TPS needing to be a corporate strategy for it to be successful, not just a set of operational tools. This is very good. And then I'll get to the blindness one in a second. The point I wanted to make about my 3 points is last year MIT completed this study that I'm sure you all have looked at called Making in America, which is about this question about how important is manufacturing to innovation. And we contributed and supported that study and worked with them at Toyota. And there are 2 books that came out. I think they're excellent. I'm sure you all are looking at them. There's a section in this book that I collaborated with Don Rosenfield on about this whole issue of lead time driving revenue growth and a way of competing. So that's kind of my pitch. Let me answer the question about the blindness. And Dave and I were talking about this at lunch. I think there are a couple things going on. Number one, I think in this area of lean over the last 20 years, many people have a basic understanding, of kind of the basics. What's missing, to do what I've kind of described here requires, in many cases, a pretty high level of TPS skills, that very customized approach that is rare. So that's one. I think that's the one thing. And then the second thing, and I think I can say this constructively, I don't think, from my experience, the business schools that I visit in this country are not helping us out in this endeavor. Let me just say it like that. I don't find that I've been to a variety of them, with the exception of MIT, that really have operations and production management as a corporate strategy as core to what they're teaching. Okay, and I hope, Dave, you're not going to kick me under the table. I don't find a lot of faculty in those disciplines that really have a high level of expertise in this area. So I think that our business community is not getting good information about that. Okay, so let me pause there, and Nick will guide me on if we have time for questions.
So Jamie, we are a little bit behind, so we'll just take one or two. He's on the next panel, so you can quiz him all you want. When he sits up here, any burning questions that you got to ask him? I got a lot of questions I want to ask him, but I can always get to him later. You can't. Any questions that you have for him? Yes, please.
Could the corporate blindness be attributed to good versus good enough? Is that a mentality we're struggling with?
Good versus good. I don't really encounter that. I think it's more of, we'll go into a company and they'll call us, and the first question is, what's your business need? What do you need to improve? And they'll say, we're really getting, typically, an example, we're really getting a lot of heat from our customers to be faster in our delivery. They want to carry less inventory. We want to carry much inventory. And they want a broader variety of products. We need to improve in that area. That's recognized. Okay, what they can't envision is, oh my gosh, here's the level that our production system performs at today, and there is this world that we can be at a radically different place. They can't vision that gap as even a possibility. I think if they could, they would have been working on it a lot for. And that's what we work on them together and build those skills, and then they can do it themselves. Does that?
Okay, I think we're going to, I think, not to put this down, but I think we're going to hold up, move up,